All right, ladies and gentlemen, we can get started on this. I would like to welcome everybody. This is Department of Revenue's Cannabis Tax and Compliance webinar, and we sure appreciate you taking time out of your day to come and share it with us and learn some information and be able to talk to some of the folks who are in the know as far as our industry is concerned. My name is Jason Sleed. I am the Communications Director with Department of Revenue here. I'm the person who built the webinar and helping you out along the way if you have any questions. Just as you know, as you entered the room, you found out that this presentation is being recorded. The reason why I want to record that is to put it on our website, so that way people whose schedules maybe didn't coincide with how our webinar was going, they could also watch this later at their leisure by accessing, going through the internet. And who knows, you know how computer systems go. Maybe you get bumped out of the meeting, you can watch it later as well. So that will be recorded. We will be putting it on our website. I would like to just kind of throw it out there that it takes us about 24 hours to turn it around. We have to get the files from Zoom, then we have to upload it. So it gives us about 24 hours of leeway there. So if you could just give us that one grace day, we should be able to get it up and rolling for you. And that way you could watch it tomorrow. Outside of that, we do have our presentation material today, but we also invite any questions that you might have along the way. We understand that you might have a question you might want to raise up to the expert at hand during the presentation. You can do that by following your little rail and finding the Q&A button, not the chat, but the Q&A. This is the button that you access to ask any questions that you might have on the webinar. We try to answer the high-level questions during the webinar. If we have specific information, we might be reaching out to you at a later point just to make sure that we get a complete answer and a fair answer and a correct answer. So the high-level questions we'll try to answer here. Any follow-up questions, we might reach out to you directly. Since you registered with us, we should have your email address there and contact information so we can follow up on a later time. Other than that, we have a bunch of panelists on the back end that are ready to answer any questions that you might have, and we can go ahead and get started. Let's get this going. Let's see. All right. Who's our first? It's Kyle.
Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you for taking the time out of your day to join us in a discussion about cannabis taxation in Montana. We know how valuable your time is, and we really appreciate you being here with us today. I would like to take a moment to introduce myself. My name is Kyle Whitney, and I'm the lead tax examiner in the Business Taxes and Fees unit here with the Department of Revenue. And I'd like to just discuss, first off, what is taxable as far as cannabis is concerned in the state of Montana. All products are taxable at full retail price, where exceptions are going to be discounted and promotional products. Discounts eligible for taxation at the discounted price must be offered to all customers. Discounts not eligible for taxation at the discounted price would only be offered to a particular geographic, such as military or veteran discounts, student discounts, or senior citizens. We would need you to file all returns through our transaction portal. You can find that at tap.dor.mt.gov. If no account currently exists, you'll be required to register and provide gross sales for medical and recreational marijuana or adult use marijuana. The system will figure appropriate taxes, including the local option tax if applicable. Our options for payment are currently electronic fund transfers, credit or debit cards online through the transaction portal. Check, cash, or money order is also available for you to use through the department. The electronic payment option for this tax type is going to be through the transaction portal only. It is a free service for accessed by individuals, businesses, and tax professionals to manage accounts with the Montana Department of Revenue. You can pay the TAP or you can pay this tax through the transaction portal, but in addition to that, you can also pay for your cannabis licensing, your marijuana card and permit, and medical marijuana provider payments as well. Cash paying customers, you can only use our one location statewide, which is 340 Last Chance Gulch here in Helena. The payer will get a receipt based on what they have written on the bags of money, or after the payment is posted in GenTax, a receipt will be generated for you to use. Our lobby is open from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday, and the dimensions for the bag must be no bigger than 13 inches wide by 2.5 inches deep. If there is failure to file and or pay in a timely manner, we will send delinquent reminder letters. They're generally mailed out 45 days after the filing due date. The follow-up delinquent letter would be mailed 30 days after the date of the original letter. Estimation of amounts due will be made based upon either the taxpayer's previous remittances or upon the sales data provided through Metric. Failure to file would result in penalty greater than $50 or 5% of the total tax due, not to exceed 25% of the total tax due. Failure to pay tax due, there would also be penalty assessed at 0.5% monthly, not to exceed 12% of the total tax due. Interest is assessed at 12% per year, and then the account is referred to our collections unit. The Montana Code Annotated 1564-103 does give us audit authority. Particularly during an audit, we would request the chart of accounts for revenue and liabilities, any supporting documentation used to prepare your state return, including cannabis sales receipts, a list of all current prices that you use for your products, any bank statements, including profit and loss, balance sheets, your corporate structure, inventory and sales, accounting policies and procedures, and an outline of your seed to sale process. This is our contact information if you do have any questions or concerns. Most general inquiries, please call 406-444-6900. Licensing and cardholder inquiries, 444-0596. And cannabis tax inquiries, 444-7040. Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you. I am Waylon with the Withholding Unit. I'm a tax examiner. I'll be giving a brief presentation on withholding income taxes today. All right, so individuals who earn wages by performing services in Montana are liable for Montana income tax. As an employer, it is your duty by law to deduct the tax from wages you pay. Every employer who pays wages for services performed in Montana must withhold Montana income tax under a federal employer identification number, the FEIN. This includes employers working remotely in Montana. Cannabis is not considered agricultural federally, so any cultivator's wages must be withheld and remitted to the state. Please let the department know if the MW3 and W2s are filed under a different entity or professional employer organization, PEO. It just helps speed up our process of our review for your renewal or your license itself. Okay. All right, so different types of compensation. So W2 versus 1099. So anyone that is performing work for you is considered a W2 employee unless they have the independent contractor exemption certificate from Department of Labor and Industry. That they are determined by that through the Department of Labor and Industry. If they do not have that, they do need to be reported as a W2 employee. And if you do receive tips, those are taxable as well and need to be withheld on. The MW4 is the Montana Employer Withholding Exemption Certificate. This is the form that will help determine how much to withhold for your employee based on their federal filing status. The MW4 needs to be submitted to the transaction portal. If the employee is claiming an exemption, the employee will need to file a new MW4 every year, anytime they're claiming an exemption. You want to keep the form on file if we do request a copy for an audit. Any employee that you had employed before 2024 is not required to fill out the new MW4 unless they're claiming exemption. I highly recommend to have all employees fill out the new MW4 as the tax rates have changed. So the withholdings may not be correct if they're using the old MW4. Now the MW3 is the Montana Annual W-2 1099 Withholding Tax Reconciliation Form. This is where you report all employee wages and withholdings, including 1099s with tax withheld. Well, the MW3 W-2s and 1099s with withholding are due by January 31st of the following year. I do recommend to file this through the transaction portal. It is just kind of a quicker process, and if you're making payments through the transaction portal, it will automatically fill those out for you. So it does help you out pretty well there. Now for your payment schedule, all new withholding accounts are automatically put to monthly remitters. Now the monthly remitters are going to be making payments by the 15th of the following month. The withholdings for staying a monthly remitter are withholdings of $1,200 to $11,999. Now there is a look back period that starts from, I believe it is July 1st of the previous year to June 30th of the current year. So this may take a year or two for this to possibly change if you are outside of that $1,200 to that $11,999. You may be put to an annual remitter if your withholdings are up to that $1,199, which the payment is due by January 31st of the following year. Now, the accelerated remitter are for withholdings of $12,000 or more within that same time frame. And your payment is due the same day as your federal tax deposits. Okay, so withholding changes. So as I mentioned earlier, for that MW4, the tax tables did update for 2024 back in October. So I do recommend to go ahead and get that new MW4 filed. The W-2 late file penalty increased from $5 per W-2 to $50 per W-2 with a minimum of $250 instead of $50. Senate Bill 399 changes to the MW4, makes so there's no more allowances for dependent exemptions and standard itemized deductions. We'll start with the federal taxable income instead. And the new MW4 form is found on our main site, the mtrevenue.gov paper form. But again, if you're claiming an exemption, that does need to be filed through our transaction portal. Excuse me. So here are some of our helpful links. If you're needing a little bit more information, more in depth, because this is a pretty brief presentation, our full presentation for withholdings is that first link. Get you going there. If you do have more questions, you can always definitely give us a call. Then our General Department of Revenue website. And then if you're going through a payroll processor, our approved software vendors for our site there, and then how you can file electronically. And yeah, if you have watched that full length video for the withholdings, if you have any questions, you can definitely reach me directly at the 406-444-4374, or you can reach our pretty knowledgeable team in our withholding unit at 406-444-6937.
So I'm looking. Have we seen Bob Yost yet? There's Bob. Bob, I think you're next, aren't you?
I am. You got me on
Perfect.
there?
Yeah. I was just afraid that somehow we missed you. If you want to undo your camera, that would be fine too. Hold on a second. There we go. Trying to do too much here. All right. Go ahead, Bob.
Thanks, Jason. I'm an individual income tax field auditor, and today I'm just going to discuss the basics of pass-through taxation specific to cannabis. So let's get started. Entity selection. Today I'm just going to talk about sole proprietorship, S corporation, or partnership. I'm not going to discuss C corporation. One of the most important decisions to make when starting a business is choosing what type of entity you will form and what structure your business will take. Each entity type or structure will have pros and cons for income tax purposes, depending on your situation. In this session, we're just going to discuss the pass-through entities only. First, partnerships. Partnership, the form for the federal is 1065. A partnership is a relationship that has to exist between at least two or more individuals. It can consist of other partnerships, an S corporation, or a C corp also. The partnership is a legal entity and it must file its own tax return, and then the income would flow through to the partners on their individual tax return, or through the S corp or the C corp. And S corporations. An S corporation is an eligible domestic corporation that elects to be treated as a separate legal entity. Like partnerships, the S corporation is a pass-through entity that generally does not pay any tax unless it has built-in capital gains or excess net profit income. Again, the S corporation is a separate legal entity that must file its own tax return, and then the income would flow through to the shareholders. So briefly, here's the S corporation tax return. On the left, you see the 1120S. That's the top part of the form. Also below that, you see the 1065. That is the federal partnership return. And then also I've included the cost of goods sold, the 1125A, because that's the federal form that would go with either one of those returns. And we'll discuss cost of goods sold here in the next few slides. The sole proprietorship. Sole proprietorship is a federal Schedule C, and it usually consists of one individual. And I've included the form on the left. You can see page 1. And if you notice, part 1 has your gross profits less your cost of goods sold. And then part 2, just for a lot of people thinking about getting in the business or starting in the business, part 2 is your kind of a general list of over 20 different types of expenses that you want to please keep track of. It'll only help you in the future and only help you in your business, whether you want to examine, hey, am I making enough profit here? Am I spending too much on this? This information, if you keep good records and have those expenses lined out, will only help you make good decisions. So as I always say, don't be a dope, keep good records. And then next is the back page of the Schedule C, and there's cost of goods sold. So let's discuss a little bit more of that in the next slide. Expenses related to the illegal sale of drugs. IRC, Internal Revenue Code 26, U.S. Code Section 280E. This is always kind of interesting, so I'm just going to read this verbatim to start with. No deduction or credit shall be allowed for any amount paid or incurred during the taxable year in carrying on any trade or business, if such trade or business or the activities which comprise such trade or business consist of trafficking in controlled substances within the meaning of Schedule 1 and 2 of the Controlled Substance Act, which is prohibited by federal law or the law of any state in which such trade or business is conducted. One thing I want to point out here, just in case, if you're looking at this show about cannabis later on in the future, this possibly could change if the federal government decides to lower that Schedule 1 or 2 for cannabis, then this might change. So I just wanted to caution that in the future. Section 280E does not prohibit a cannabis marijuana business from reducing its gross receipts by the properly calculated cost of goods sold when arriving at gross income. So one point I just want to make here too is if you're starting out, yes, there could be situations where your federal amount that you're going to report, like let's say, for example, on a Schedule C for profit, might be different than what you're going to report on the state, because the state has different rules for calculating the proper cost of goods sold, and the federal only allows certain amounts of expenses in the cost of goods sold. So I just wanted to make that reference at this time. Also, the people to really contact in regards to pass-through entities, you have Phoebe, very, very knowledgeable about this. You have Ashley also. Then general inquiries regarding pass-through, you can call this number, and then they can help you out with those kind of specific questions also. And then I just wanted to also include, we are out there on a lot of different social media stances, so you can sure take a look at these if you need to contact us. So thank you very much, and thanks, Jason.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Lee Keller, and I'm a unit manager with the Collection Services Bureau, or CSB. CSB is responsible for collecting past due tax balances and debts owed to the state, to other state agencies, local governments, and universities within Montana. The CSB is committed to being fair, consistent, and reasonable in our efforts to enforce tax laws and collect delinquent debts. Slide 2, please. What are trust taxes? Businesses are responsible for and entrusted to withhold and pay funds to the Department of Revenue on behalf of employees or customers per MCA 1530, 2540, 3, 4, and 5. A few trust tax examples are cannabis tax, withholding, lodging sales tax, rental vehicle tax, and mineral royalties withholding. In the state of Montana, individuals can be held liable for a trust tax debt. Liability is determined by identifying individuals within the ownership or management structure of the business at the time the debt was due, regardless of current ownership or closure. When individuals are named liable, they will receive notices that are sent to their last known address. The two tax types that may impact this group the most are cannabis and withholding. For the sales tax payments, it is best practice to set the funds aside and remit payments either monthly or quarterly with your return. If you do not remit payment, your past due tax balance will be turned over to the Collection Service Bureau. Next slide, Jason. When your past due tax balance is turned over to collections, we do offer payment options. We have found that most people resolve their balance by paying in full within 30 days of their first notice, or resolve it within 6 to 12 months. Trust tax payment plans are set up for 12 months or less. If your payment plan is not in good standing, a warrant for distraint, which is also known as a tax lien, will be filed. I will provide more details on what a warrant for distraint is in another slide. If we receive notice of an NSF, also known as a return payment, or you fail to make a scheduled payment, your payment plan will no longer be in good standing. Keep in mind, if you incur new debt, it can be added to the existing payment plan, but the end date will stay the same, meaning your payment amount will increase. For example, let's say that you have a 12-month payment plan for first quarter debt and have 12 months left on your payment plan. Second quarter debt comes into collections. That debt can be added into the remaining 10 months of your current payment plan. You will need to call the Collection Services Bureau and arrange this change. If your payment plan needs to exceed 12 months, a tax lien will be filed. Once a lien is filed, it will not be satisfied until the debt is paid in full. If you believe you have special circumstances and need to make arrangements outside of the standard 12-month plan, please contact us. We will require you to complete our financial condition statement form, provide 3 months worth of bank statements, pay stubs, or proof of income. Next slide, Jason. If you have been named individually liable for a trust tax debt, you and your business will be listed on the warrant for distraint filed in district court. A warrant for distraint has the same force and effect as a judgment filed in district court. Once a tax lien has been filed, it provides the Collection Service Bureau with the authority to garnish funds under 15-1706-2 of the MCA. If no resolution is made, forced collection activity will occur. Funds may be seized through wage garnishments or funds levies. Wage garnishments will remain in place and continue for 120 days. After that time has passed, you may have the option to establish payment arrangements. Next slide, please. I hope this information was informative. Please feel free to call the Collection Service Bureau at 406-444-6964 if you have any further questions or would like to set up a payment plan. You can also reach us at the email address listed on this screen or by fax. Thank you.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. My name is Travis Pilon. I'm the Licensing Bureau Chief in the Cannabis Control Division. And so my team oversees the call center that you would deal with when calling 444-0596. They also handle all renewals for your annual renewals. Today, I just want to talk about how tax compliance. Could you go back? So yeah, today I just want to talk about how everything you've heard today ties into your renewal and how compliance in any of the situations that fits your business is required. And then I also want to talk a little bit just about the changes that we've had since March of 2024. So in the past, after your inspection and prior to invoice, we were checking to see if there was compliance with all of your cannabis taxes. This led to some bottlenecks prior to the invoice and some longer wait times at getting the renewal completed. So as of March 2024, what we did is we put the tax compliance check up front in the licensing portion of the renewal. So during the documentation gathering phase, what we do is we give all of the tax units within the department a period of time to do their work to make sure compliance is satisfied. And then if we have all the documentation and tax compliance has not been satisfied, that's when we would send a return for correction letter to our licensees. So some of you may have already experienced this, and then those of you that have yet to renew, it's possible you could experience it this year. That letter will outline which units you're not compliant with, and then it will also explain how to get into compliance. We will not be sending the renewal to inspection if you aren't tax compliant. So once that hurdle is cleared, then we would send it on to our inspection team. So yeah, that's all I've got for today. And with that, I will send it back to Jason.
All right. And I think the last couple of slides are just ways that you can interact with Department of Revenue. Like somebody had already said, I think it was Bob, we are on all the social media sites. You can get information from there. Please use some of the information that you found in this presentation to reach out to us directly. We are ready and willing to answer any of those questions that you may have. And we'd love to just go through your account with a little bit more of an intention rather than just having the webinar. This does wrap up our webinar today. We want to thank you folks for coming out and sharing your morning with us for the Cannabis Taxes and Compliance webinar. Like I said, we are calculating all the questions, and if we do have to reach out to you directly, we can do so because you registered for this webinar. We will have more webinars coming out from the Department of Revenue. If you want to go to our revenue site and find out what those are, maybe they're applicable to you. Maybe you want to learn more about taxation and how your business fits in with the state, and you are welcome to join those webinars, and we'd love to hang out with you and just speak taxes with you. With all of that, I'm going to wrap this up. Don't forget, this is recorded. It will be on our website roughly about 24 hours, depending on how fast we get the files. We'll turn that around, and if you missed something, maybe you had to step away, maybe you lost connection, you could always rewatch the presentation. Thank you so much. Please reach out to us if you have any questions. We are ready and waiting. So thank you so much for sharing your day with us, and we will let you go. Have a wonderful afternoon, and we will see you next time. Thank you all to our presenters and our panelists, and thank you, audience, once more, and we'll see you later. Thank you.